viewers, and I'm back for another YouTube video of what would have happened if this were in real life RhinoTMRT gameplay series. Now, I kind of been trying over and over again to come up with another one of these topics. I mean, hardly all the time it just feels very obvious, it looks very obvious, and then suddenly I, obviously come up with a perfectly good idea, like, super obvious. Now, I know that Christmas Round TMRT Gameplay Week has already started, and, well, yeah, I guess it kind of does make a lot of sense, so, yeah, I guess that kind of does make sense, so, yeah, I just assumed that I would do it here, just like last time, and, yeah, I guess that's kind of it, so, yeah. So this is what would have happened. This is what would have happened if the Good Dinosaur 2 movie were in real life. Now we cut open to the beginning where Arlo is enjoying his life ever since Spot found a family of his own, and ever since Arlo got back to his family. Everything seemed very great and all. Arlo, who is now who's now just like his father now and has his own children, is perfectly fine and great, and, well, you kind of get my picture, right? So they're kind of enjoying their lives. Well, that is up until when they're all enjoying their lives. Is enjoying his new life. Spot is enjoying his new life. Everybody wins, well, except for those flying villains, except for those flying prehistoric villains from the first movie. Yeah, they kind of lost. So yeah. Yeah, however, there's going to be a totally new different villain for most of that. And I guess you can easily see why. So the idea is that everything seems so good for Arlo and Spot's lives. Well, that is up until when Arlo's uncle, who of course was actually banished by Arlo's father, uses Spot in his new family, finds out about Spot in his new family, and he uses them as bait to get Arlo and his family over to him, it kind of does make sense. So Arlo's uncle, who is of course now planning to destroy both Arlo and Spot's lives, which I guess is kind of makes sense now. The idea of Arlo having a long lost uncle who becomes the villain is actually a very great, idea and all. Like, think about because we haven't even heard, because there hasn't even been an animated uncle villain there hasn't been an uncle villain in like any animated kids movie. So it's actually a very good idea. It's actually a very good idea. Now, yes, I know The Good Dinosaur wasn't Pixar's best movie with money, which I guess kind of does make sense. I still think it was fine, and yeah, so I guess it kind of does make sense. So Spot is eventually, so some of Spot's new family is captured by the same villains from the first movie, who are now working for Arlo's uncle, who is actually named Marlo. So is actually named Marco. So yeah, Arlo's father. Now how the great idea for a villain about how Arlo's father, I forgot his name, banished Arlo's uncle, whose name is Marco. So Arlo's uncle Marco actually plans to use Spot as bait to get revenge on Arlo's family for banishing him away from like every other place in the prehistoric area. So Yeah, so Arlo's uncle Marco eventually plans out all that. Meanwhile, Arlo is enjoying his life, and yeah, I guess you can easily see why. Now we cut it to Arlo where he's enjoying his new life. He has his own kids. His mother already died sometime after the first movie and before the second movie, which I guess kind of does make a lot of sense because Arlo's mother died of old age, and yeah, I guess it kind of does make a lot of sense. So yeah, that's kind of how I wanted it to be like that. So Arlo and his brothers and sisters are already enjoying their new lives as parents, and of course fathers to their own and of course fathers and mothers to their own children, which is very obvious. That is up until when some of Spot's family actually escapes Arlo's uncle Marco and the other main villains from the first movie, and then he tells them, and then they tell him by show, and then some of Spot's new family actually comes along and tells Arlo's children, Arlo and his wife's children, that that he that their family is actually they're showing a picture. So basically, Spot's what I'm trying to say is that Spot's new family members are trying to show Arlo's new children Arlo's children that Spot and his new mother and father are in grave danger. So yeah, that's kind of how I wanted it to go like this. So Arlo's children and Arlo and his wife and his brother and Arlo and his wife, they set out to save Spot and his new mother and father. So they set out with them to save them, along with basically with the help of Spot's new siblings, which kind of does make a lot of sense. I figured that I would do it something like this, and yeah, I guess that kind of does make a lot of sense. So they travel a long way towards or to find Arlo's uncle Marco and get back Spot and his new mother and father, which I guess kind of does make a lot of sense. So yeah, I guess it would make a lot of sense, and I guess I just keep it where it stands. So yeah, actually, this is a very good start to a second movie. I mean, I know that The Good Dinosaur didn't do well with Pixar's first box office failure, but I think this sequel makes a perfectly good villain. Like think about it. Hasn't there like think about it this way. There hasn't even been an uncle villain in any animated kids slash children's movie, which is actually very great. So yeah, so now with Arlo and his wife and children and Spot's new siblings, they all travel through various areas of the prehistoric era, like forests and whatever other kind of places where they are. That is up until when they find Arlo's uncle, aka Marco's headquarters, the one that was built outside some on an island outside of the prehistoric of their home of Arlo and his wife and children's home, and far away from the place as possible. So they eventually begin their attack on them, and here we get a big fight and battle scene with Arlo and his wife and his wife and children, and where Arlo and his wife and children and Spot's new siblings try to break in, while attacking the guards, which just so happen with Spot's new children actually attacks the flying guards. The flying guards are actually the main villains from the first movie. So the main villains from the first movie are actually minor antagonists to Arlo's uncle Marco, which I guess kind of does make clear sense. So yeah, so basically Arlo and his wife and children and Spot's new siblings, they all get to Marco's place, only to find out that only to find out that there was Spot and his new mother and father. And then it just so happens that Arlo's uncle, aka Marco, set up a trap for him. Yeah, so I guess that kind of does make a lot of sense. So, yeah, and I guess it kind of does make a lot of sense because they took out and then Arlo says that they took out that all of them took out Marco's flying guards, the main villains from the first movie. Yeah, I don't remember any of their names, but I think they were the people who were trying to eat Spot, and Arlo was trying to get away from them. So yeah, it's those people who now work for Arlo's uncle, aka Marco. So yeah. So they find out. So it's here that Arlo and his wife and children and Spot's two siblings are all captured, and then just before they're about to die at the hands of Arlo's uncle, aka Marco. Just before that happens, Arlo's mother and father actually appears to Arlo and tells him, "Son, you must survive. You must survive. You must fight back against your uncle. He may be family, but he may be a part of the family, but he is the worst uncle that you'd ever have. You have to bring him back the way he was. We couldn't do it, but you can." So yeah, so technically it's Arlo's parents basically telling Arlo that he has to fix his uncle Marco before Arlo and his new wife and children and Spot's new siblings and his Spot's new parents and Spot before they all die. So that's kind of the idea. So then Arlo tells Marco that he's nothing like his father, and that he agrees to be just like him. And then just before that, Marco is actually almost falling to his death. So Arlo actually almost lets him fall to his death, but then just before then, Arlo and his wife and children help Marco get up, and then Marco realizes that everything that he was doing wrong as Arlo's uncle was all very bad in the first place. So he finally understands himself. Arlo and his family, along with Arlo's uncle, are all happy and great and all. They all become a very, very happy family, and Arlo's mother and father become happy, and Arlo's brothers and sisters and their wives and husbands and children are all fine and all, and then everything is very great, and then everyone is very great, and then everyone all smiles and in front and forward, and then they walk ahead. The end, and then we get a post-credit scene where the main villains from the first movie actually the main villains from the first movie they actually get someone in a flying guard person of their own, and then they say, "We will stop Arlo and Spot and their families and take them over once and for all." So, yeah, I guess that's my take on what would have happened if the Good Dinosaur 2 movie were in real life. Anyways, that's it for today. Peace out. Bye bye.